Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet shrinvatam svakata krishnam punya shravana kirtanaha ridyantasto hyabadrani vidunoti suritsatam nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Welcome, dear devotees. I hope you had a wonderful festival celebrating the 50th anniversary of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath and their wonderful presence in our lives, in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, and also the wonderful association of the super excellent devotees headed by His Holiness Ramai Swami. We were blessed and graced with so many wonderful early Prabhupada disciples, Bhavananda Prabhu, Dvaipayana Prabhu, and so many others, Srila Pratapana Prabhu, and Jayashree Mataji. So many wonderful devotees. So today we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 33, in a chapter entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. Vidura Pyudavachtrutva Viduropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Krida Yopata Dehasya Krida Yopata Dehasya Karmani slaghitani cha Karmani slaghitani cha Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani slaghitani cha Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani Shlagitani cha Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani Shlagitani cha Prabhus Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani Shlagitani cha Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani Shlagitani cha Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani Shlaghitani cha. Mataji's, please. Vidoropyudavachtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kreda Yopata Dehasya Karmani shlakitani cha Vidurabhyuravajtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kridayobhata Dehasya Karmani shlakitani cha Vidurabhyuravajtrutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kridayobhata Dehasya Karmani shlakitani cha. Word by word. Viduraha, Vidura, Api, also, Udhavat, from the source of Uddhava, Shrutva, having heard, Krishnasya, of Lord Krishna, Paramatmanaha, of the Supersoul, Kridaya, for the sake of pastimes in the mortal world, Upata, extraordinarily accepted, Dehasya, of the body, Karmani, transcendental activities, Shlaghitani, most glorious, Cha, also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Supersoul, in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. Purport: the subject matter of the appearance and disappearance of the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, is a mystery even for the great sages. The word Paramatmanaha is significant in this verse. An ordinary living being is generally called the Atma, but Lord Krishna is never an ordinary living being because he is Paramatma, the Supersoul. Yet his appearance as one of the human beings and his disappearance again from the mortal world are subject matters for the research workers who execute research work with great perseverance. Such subject matters are certainly of increasing interest because the researchers have to search out the transcendental abode of the Lord, which he enters after finishing his pastimes in the mortal world. But even the great sages have no information that beyond the material sky is the spiritual sky, where Sri Krishna eternally resides with his associates, although at the same time he exhibits his pastimes in the mortal world, in all the universes one after another. This fact is confirmed in Brahma Samhita 537. Goloka eva nivasat yakilat mabuta. The Lord, by his inconceivable potency, resides in his eternal abode, Goloka, yet at the same time, as the Supersoul, he is present everywhere, in both the spiritual and material skies, by his multi-varieties of manifestation. Therefore, his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on, and no one can say definitely which one of them is the beginning and which is the end. His eternal pastimes have no beginning or end, and one has to learn of them from the pure devotee only, and not waste valuable time in so-called research work. Om Agyantiminandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Madhobishdam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yoda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kampatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Eternally praying at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, we take the dust from his lotus feet, we circumambulate his samadhi, we praise his glorious, wonderful activities in his transcendental Leela in this material world. We beg humbly with straw between our teeth and folded palms praying Dandavat obeisances to him that we can say the right things at the right time in the right spirit to fully evoke the presence of Krishna and to fully be able to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the appropriate manner. So we're very fortunate that we're reading this purport because we're talking about the appearance and disappearance of Sri Krishna, which is a very wonderful subject matter. And we had the wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam class of Ramaya Swami on Nrsimha Chaturdasi explaining the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. So it's a very beautiful situation where Prahlad Maharaj was invoked into the pastimes of the Lord. And then you might ask yourself, how did this occur? So at that time, also, the world was overburdened with impious kings, and so many terrible, unfortunate situations were occurring. There was the defilement of the chaste women, there was the destruction of the cows, the destruction of the brahmanas, and so as a result of that, the world was in a very terrible situation. Hiranyaksha, whose name is literally translated as gold soft pillow, and his brother Hiranyakashipu, whose name is translated as golden soft bed. So they were wreaking havoc together, these two brothers. And so as a result of that, the demigods all assembled together and said, we have to do something about this. And Brihaspati is the spiritual master of all the demigods. So they went to Brihaspati and said, look, Mother Earth is crying under the influence of these terrible kings. They're threatening to throw her in the Garbhodak ocean, thereby polluting her. So is there something you can do? So Brihaspati, in his learned, scholarly manner, said, perhaps the person to approach is Vishnu. So they went to the shore of the Milk Ocean, and then they prayed to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Brahma was personally present there. And so what we understand from the first text of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaye. So the conversation between Vishnu and Lord Brahma occurs in the heart. So no one of the other demigods could actually understand what Vishnu was saying to Brahma. So Brahma had to translate it. And then so he forecast that there would be a presence of a young boy, Lord Prahlad Maharaj, to incarnate in order to teach the blessings of Sri Krishna and to teach the message of Krishna. And also there would be an incarnation of the Lord. Very soon an incarnation of the Lord would appear. He would be half man, half lion. So this forecasts the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. And as we know, in the various incarnations of the Lord from Das Avatar Stotra, we have the first incarnation is the fish, the third incarnation is the boar, Shuka, Rupa, Jaya Jagadish Hari, and fourth incarnation is Narahari, or Nrsingadev. So all these incarnations incarnate as a result of Paritranaya Dushkritam, Vinashaya Chaduskritam, Dharma Samstapanatya, Sambhaya Vami Yuge Yuge. So in order to annihilate the demons and to protect the devotees, I myself incarnate millennium after millennium. So Lord Nrsingadev was called down by Prahlad Maharaj, and so in previous incarnations of Ram, his parents were Kaushalya and Dasharat. In the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya, his parents were Shachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra, and in the incarnation of Krishna, his parents were Devaki and Vasudev, and foster parents were Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And then in the incarnation of Lord Nrsingadev, his parents were the pillar. Both the father and mother of Nrsingadev is the pillar. And then if you go to a Ahobilam, even to this day, you can worship that pillar that Lord Nrsinga came out of. And you see wonderful devotees have performed the Nrsinga plays. His Holiness Indradyumna Swami is touted as perhaps the leader of the most famous play in ISKCON, when he himself played Nrsingadev and he emerged from the pillar, and then he bifurcated the chest of Hiranyakashipu with his chisel-like nails, and then garlanded himself with the intestines of Hiranyakashipu. So this is the mood of the Lord. He comes down to protect the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. And so there's beautiful stories from the Nrsinga Purana explaining that when Nrsingadev appeared, it was as a result of Hiranyakashipu who was praying for immortality. So he didn't want it to be killed. And so the prayers he wanted, he said, don't let me be killed in the morning or the afternoon. Don't let me be killed in any one of the yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, or Kali Yuga. Don't let me be killed by man or beast. Don't let me be killed in the ground or in the sky. And so therefore Hiranyakashipu thought that he had attained immortality by this prayer to Lord Brahma. However, we know that Krishna is complete in all the six opulences: knowledge, wealth, renunciation, fame, power, and beauty. So Lord Parashara Muni enlightens us to the six transcendental opulences of Krishna. And so in his full knowledge, Lord Nrsingadev manifests, and he has this tremendous knowledge, he's omniscient. It's explained that there's only two incarnations of the Lord who have most of the opulences. So Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan pastimes has all 64 opulences incomplete, and Lord Nrsingadev and Lord Rama have 60 opulences. So Lord Nrsingadev manifested to protect his devotees, to annihilate the demon Hiranyakashipu. And there's beautiful, if you go to Ahobilam still to this day, you can see the wonderful pillars that Lord Nrsinga emerged from. And there's a beautiful story where Lord Nrsingadev first meets the servant of Hiranyakashipu. And then he runs in fear, like seeing, no one has ever seen like a half man, half lion before. And so then the servant runs to Hiranyakashipu and he said, Maharaj, there's a great demon here who said he wants to kill you. And then so by that time Hiranyakashipu was really puffed up. He thought, I'm immortal now. No one can kill me in the morning or in the evening. I can't be killed outside or inside. I can't be killed in any yuga. So therefore I'm immortal. So he had this puffed up thinking. And so then he says, bring him to me. So then the servant Hiranyakashipu said, I think he's coming already. So then Lord Nrsingadev appears and he bifurcates the chest of the wasp. It's explained the wasp-like chest of Hiranyakashipu with his chisel-like nails. And it's important to understand that that's liberation. When the demons are killed by Krishna, they attain liberation. So it's a beautiful story. We can recall it over and over again, the appearance of the Lord in his Nrsingadev form. And there's beautiful, yesterday we were fortunate enough to see the Abhishek ceremony of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami, where he has a Ugra Nrsinga deity form, Shalagram Shila, And it's very beautiful, but it's very important and pertinent to understand that the Ugra Nrsinga forms are to be worshipped by the renunciates. So this is a more passive form of Lord Nrsingadev, where, like, if you see the dripping crimson blood coming down from Lord Nrsingadev's teeth and his hands, that's more of a Ugra Nrsinga form of the Lord, which is for the renunciates. So, but we can still see it, we can still observe the wonderful Abhishek of Nrsingadev even in his Ugra form, no matter what ashram or varna we have. So, and then that moves us on, there's various other appearances of the Lord. So, of course, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also appears. So if we go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, in especially Krishna book, we can understand that similar situation occurred. The whole world was overburdened with impious kings, and they're known as demons. So these demons were burdening the earth with violating the principles of the chastity of the women, they were violating the principles of protection of the brahmanas, they were violating the principles of protection of the cows. And so as a result of that, Bhumi Devi, who is Mother Earth, she was incredibly aggrieved. So Srila Prabhupada reminds us in the Srimad Bhagavatam that we should love all of our mothers. Mother Earth is one of our mothers, Mother Cow, the wife of the Brahmana, the wife of the spiritual master, they're all understood as our mothers. And Parikshit is explained as one of the most pious kings, and he treated every woman that he met as his mother. He said, yes, Mataji, any woman he met. That's the great qualities of Parikshit Maharaj, that any woman he met, he understood was his mother. And Parikshit Maharaj was so pious and so chaste to the Vedic principles that he even treated every single Prabhu as his spiritual master. He was king. He had a great king, so much opulence, and yet he's treated everyone as every male he met as his spiritual master. And it's reminding from the Mukundamala Stotra that it's explained in there that we should see all of our senior devotees as representatives of God. And this was explained on the Vyasa Puja of His Holiness Indrajumna Swami. He was having a wonderful conversation with Pratapana Prabhu, and he was saying, in his humility and his love and adoration, His Holiness Indrajumna Swami was quoting this Mukundamala Stotra and saying we should see all the senior devotees as representatives of God. So, in this sense, Bhumi went to see Brahma, Lord Brahma, with tears in her eyes, and she explained the calamitous situation of the world. There's so much pollution, the river Jamuna is full of waste, therefore she took the form of a cow. And then so Lord Brahma, all the demigods and Bhumi, in the same way they went to Lord Vishnu. And so they went to the ocean of milk. So there's various different oceans explained. There's ocean of liquor, there's ocean of oil, there's ocean of cream, there's ocean of yogurt. And then if you go down to the hellish planets, there's ocean of mucus, there's ocean of bile, there's ocean of pus. So these are all the oceans. Obviously we want to be in the human form of life, because in that form of life we can try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, the human form of life is the only form of life that we can understand Krishna. But there's a beautiful explanation in Prabhupada's purport on the Hare Krishna mantra. He said the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that even animals, the birds, the beasts, the dogs, they can take part in this Hare Krishna movement. And we see that when we go out on kirtan, sometimes the dogs are wagging their tail, they're dancing, sometimes the birds are singing. And then if we go to the wonderful prayers of the Sadhu Goswami Ashtakam, it's explained, Kujat kokila hamsa sarasa kirne mayura kule. So Kujat kokila, the cuckoos are singing in the Sankirtan of Lord Chaitanya. The hamsa, the swans, are also singing. And the mayura kule, or the peacocks, are also singing as well. So Lord Brahma approached Lord Vishnu on the ocean of milk, and then he was praying. Lord Brahma was praying to Lord Vishnu, please, we're in a very calamitous situation. And so how does Lord Brahma pacify the Lord? And what particular mantra does he choose? He chooses the Purusha Shukta, the beautiful prayer, which is a peace invocation. Om Tacham Yoda Frini Mahe Gatun Yagnaya Gatun yagya pataye dvaivishvati rastunaha svashtir manush vedayaha urdvam jigatu beshajam shamno astu dvipade sham chatushpade om shanti shanti shanti. So this is also in our fire yagyas in the Hare Krishna movement. We also have this same prayer to Lord Vishnu to inspire, to invoke all auspiciousness. And then there's beautiful, may all miseries and shortcomings leave us forever, so that we may always sing for the Lord during the holy fire ceremonies. May all medicinal herbs grow in potency, so that all diseases will be cured. May the gods rain peace on us. May all the two-legged creatures be happy, and may all the four-legged creatures also be happy. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings in all realms. So this is the very beautiful Purusha Sukta prayers that Lord Brahma was praying to Lord Vishnu. And in there, we can see that actually there's a prayer, may all the herbal medicinal herbs grow. So in this age of Kali, Prabhupada reminded us that all modern medical institutions are actually demoniac. So they're not actually hoping for medicinal herbs to grow, they're hoping to produce vaccines. So, and then interestingly, Krishna says personally, I am the medicinal herbs. So and that's what we're praying here, and it's the same prayer Lord Brahma was praying to Lord Vishnu. So indeed, that appeased Vishnu on the Garbhodak ocean, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu started explaining to Lord Brahma as to what he should do. And so it's explained, it's Tene Brahma Hridaye. So the conversation between Kshirodakashayi Vishnu and Lord Brahma went from the mind of Lord Kshirodakashayi Vishnu into the heart of Lord Brahma. So it wasn't an oral transmission, it was in the heart. And so Lord Brahma heard what Kshirodakashayi Vishnu was saying, and then he managed to translate that to all the demigods. So he's explaining that very soon the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear with all of his supreme powerful potencies to annihilate the demons and establish the devotees. The demigods should stay to assist him. And so then when Kshirodakashayi Vishnu explained to Lord Brahma, he also explained that all of the demigods, all 333 million demigods, would appear in the family of the Yadu dynasty. So it's beautiful that they assist, the demigods assist. That's the definition Prabhupada gave between the demons and the demigods. So the demons try to create obstacles and hinder the process of Krishna consciousness, where the demigods always try to assist the propagation of the holy names, the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Sankirtan Yagya of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as we know, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as the son of Vasudeva. So at that time, the king ruling over the land of Mathura was Surasena. And Surasena had a beautiful son by the name of Vasudeva, and then Vasudeva had a beautiful son by the name of Krishna. So essentially, demigods and their wives appeared in different pious families in the Yadu dynasty to help the Lord. So we see Shiva and Parvati appearing in the Yadu dynasty. We see Brahma and Sarasvati appearing in the Yadu dynasty, and so many of all the other demigods appearing in the Yadu dynasty in order to help the Lord. And the beautiful word Prabhupada tells us is tat priyartam. Demigods should appear on the earth to please the Lord. Any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. So, and then further to the conversation with Kshirodakashayi Vishnu and Lord Brahma, he explained that not only would Lord Krishna appear, but Lord Balaram would also appear. The Anantashesh would appear in the pastimes of the Lord in order to please Mother Bhumi and therefore annihilate the demons and protect the devotees. And then it was also explained of Maya's appearance. So Yoga Maya would appear as well in order to bewilder the fallen conditioned souls and keep them entrapped in the material world. So we know from the Brahma Samhita, Shrishti Shiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chaye Vayasya Vibhupati Vibhati Durva Yat Tamasun Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Maya is a servant of Krishna. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is supreme in all aspects. He's never affected by Maya. He never comes under the influence of Maya. But then if we know from the Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Muratyaya. So the material energy is very difficult to overcome. It's very difficult to overcome in the sense that the fallen conditioned souls are very easily entrapped in the material world. And if we go to the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained there that women and money are poison for the transcendentalist. So when money comes, according to the Brahma Shastras, then one should utilize those funds in the service of Krishna before the sunrise the next day. So the accumulation of wealth is very detrimental to spiritual practice. As we know from also the 11th canto is the beautiful story of the Avanti Brahmana. So the Avanti Brahmana, in his youth, he understood the principles perfectly of Brahman culture, and so he accepted charity. Prabhupada explains the 6 sat karmas, or the eternal activities of the Brahmanas, are to learn the Vedas, to teach the Vedas, to learn the worship of the deity, to teach others the worship of the deity, to collect in charity, and to give in charity. So those are the 6 eternal karmas of the Brahmanas. So indeed this Avanti Brahmana was so very eager and enthusiastic in his Brahmanical activities, and as a result of that, Lakshmi rained her mercy on him and gave him tremendous fortune. We know Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Lord Krishna is served by hundreds and millions of Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, in order to fulfill all of his spiritual desires. And so we know that Krishna also goes to Dvarka. He has 16,108 wives, and with every single one of them he has 100 children, and then the entirety of Krishna's family is calculated as 590 million. So it's a very big family. So essentially, if we go back to the birth of Krishna, so after hearing all the instructions that Kshirodakashayi Vishnu imparted into his heart, Lord Brahma departs for Brahmaloka. And then so all the other demigods get ready themselves for appearance in the Yadu dynasty. So then we know that Vasudeva was married to Devaki. And it's a very beautiful, there's descriptions of their marriage ceremony. It had a lot of pomp and a lot of opulence and a lot of beautiful personalities present, much for the love and adoration of Devaki and Vasudeva, because they were very pious. They were the son of Vasudeva was the son of Surasena, therefore he had tremendous opulence. So, and Shurasena was also very affectionate to his daughter. As a result of his affection, he contributed a very significant dowry. So the dowry of Surasena to his daughter Devaki on the day of their marriage was 1,800 chariots bedecked with gold, 400 elephants decorated with golden garlands, and 15,000 decorated horses. Also 200 beautiful girls to follow his daughter. So it was the Vedic custom that beautiful girls were given in charity by the king to Devaki or to the daughter who was married on that day, so that they could act as her maidservants. So essentially they would be engaged in activities of brushing the hair, cleaning the feet, preparing saris, also being aware of the common or the fashions of the time. So teaching her which is the beautiful way to tie the sari, should the sari be tied across the breasts, how to wear the hair, so many things. So in this modern age, even when men and women get married, there is often a retinue of women who help, or the brides of honor, to help the wife look her most beautiful on the day of her union. So Shurasena gave 200 beautiful girls, and then Kamsa is also the son of Ugrasena. So it's understood that even in the same family, you can have very divine personalities and you can have very demoniac personalities. However, Kamsa still had some piety, he still had some good qualities, because he still wanted to please his sister by taking the reins of the horses of Vasudeva's chariot and driving. Essentially what happens on the day of the marriage of the daughter, it's understood that she would experience such tremendous separation from her father. It's a big move for under the protection of her father. Prabhupada reminds us that women should be protected at every age, from birth, in youth protected by the father, in middle age to be protected by the husband, and in the old age to be protected by the grown-up sons. So Kamsa was acting as the charioteer for Vasudeva and Devaki on the day of her wedding. And still to this day that goes on in some parts of India. When the wife is to be taken away to the home of her father-in-law, the brother goes with the sister until she reaches her father-in-law's house. So, and it's a very beautiful situation, and when that chariot was driving from the marriage ceremony to the house of Surasena, there were so many bugles, conch shells, drums and kettle drums vibrating a very nice concert. So it was a very auspicious situation. Rupa Goswami explains to us in the Nectar of Devotion the word udipan. So these are the things which arouse our Krishna consciousness. So when we see the peacock feather, when we hear the kirtans, when we hear the mridanga playing, the kartars playing, it's a very wonderful concert and it arouses our Krishna consciousness. When we see the Prabhujis dressed with beautiful turbans tied around their head, or the Gurukuli boys with the beautiful turban with the wonderful flowing down as well, it reminds us of Krishna. It reminds us of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we hear the ululating of the Matajis, it also reminds us of the marriage ceremony of Lord Chaitanya, or Nimai, and Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. So in this wonderful situation, everyone was in merriment, everyone was in joy, everyone was in bliss. And so then that was the opportunity where the omen from the sky starts to talk to Kamsa. Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and brother-in-law, but you don't know that the 8th child of this sister will kill you. So Kamsa was he understood straight away from the demon, from the omen from the sky, that the 8th son of Devaki will kill him. So immediately he took out his sword, grabbed the hair of Devaki, and he was about to cut off her head. So Vasudeva was astonished at the behavior of Kamsa, and so he starts relating to her. Vasudeva tries to pacify Kamsa. So Vasudeva is Brahminical, and so he wants to use his words. We know Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the pen is mightier than the sword. Was a beautiful word that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or phrase that Bhaktivinoda Thakur imbibed, and also he understood that. And in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, he wrote a short sketch on the life of Lord Chaitanya, and then he sent that to universities in America and Canada. And indeed, there's one university in Canada had that as a syllabus for one of those programs, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, fully in understanding that the pen is mightier than the sword. So Kamsa heard the prophecy from the sky. He was about to kill her, and then Vasudeva has this wonderful conversation. What do you say to that person, your brother-in-law, on the day of your marriage, who's taken your wife by the hair and about to cut off her head? So Vasudeva starts saying to him, why are you afraid of death? For all devotees, no devotee is actually afraid of death, because we know Rahi Krishna Mahike, Mahi Krishna Rakike. If Krishna wants us dead, nothing can save us. If Krishna wants us to live, nothing can kill us. So this is the mood of Vasudeva. Why are you afraid of death, Kamsa? From the very day you took birth, you began to die. Suppose you're 25 years old. That means you have already died 25 years. Every moment, every second you are dying. Why are you so much afraid of inevitable death? So even if we look at the mundane speculators, the material doctors and medicine people who study physiology and anatomy, they understand that even from the time of birth you can find atherosclerotic plaque in the arteries, arterioles of a child. So that is one of the biggest killers of human beings, cardiovascular disease. So from the time people birth, there's a build-up of atherosclerotic plaque. So even physiologically, we die straight away every second. And when I was listening to Prabhupada's Nrsinga glorification of Lord Nrsinga's appearance, Prabhupada said, we're not guaranteed one moment. this might be our last moment here. This might be our last moment to be in front of the deities of Radha Gopinath. And are we truly saying, Srila Radha Gopinath, I am yours, I am yours, I am yours. So we have to be in that mood of any second we can die, much in this way that Vasudeva is communicating with Kim Kamsa. And then he explains so many beautiful truths. He said, the higher authorities understand which living entity, which body we'll get in our next life. They understand by the virtue of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He chooses which body we get in our next life. So when we awake, we forget them all. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something and immediately it rejects the same thing. So this whole beautiful discourse of Vasudeva, and then he's saying, please don't be envious of your sister, Devaki, because we know when there's fear present, that's as a result of envy. So when envy is present, there has to be fear. So Vasudeva is requesting Kamsa, don't be envious of your newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear, both in this world and the next one, when one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. So in this mood, Vasudeva tried to pacify Kamsa. He tried to say, this is the wrong thing to do. It's a very auspicious moment for Devaki. So please spare her. And then finally he says, it's the 8th son of Devaki who will actually cause your death. So why is there the need to kill her? And then Vasudeva was very much he had a word of honor. And everyone knew that about Vasudeva. And so he said to Kamsa, I promise to you, I will present to you every son that Devaki has, and then you can do with him as you wish. So in that way, Kamsa allowed Vasudeva and Devaki to go back to their home and continue their holy matrimony. And so when the first son of Devaki was born, Vasudeva had to play that, he gave his word. So therefore he had to do it. He went with the first son and he presented him to Kamsa, and then Kamsa immediately grabbed him, and then he thought to himself, I should throw him against the stone, but then in his mind he thought, well, it's not the 8th son, so perhaps we should let him live. So then he gave back the first son to Vasudeva, and then he went back to his ashram to look after his wife and to be taken care of. Then Narada Muni appears on the scene, and Narada Muni wanted to speed up the ascent of Lord Krishna. He wanted to make the process of Krishna appearing in the world faster. So Narada Muni says to him, like any one of the sons of Devaki could be the Vishnu person personally. So therefore, what are you allowing Vasudeva and Devaki to live outside here? Once Krishna is born in Vasudeva's or Devaki's womb, he's going to be able to speak to them in a manner which they don't have to come to you and give the son of the Vishnu to you. So immediately Kamsa went to the house of Devaki and Vasudeva and then incarcerated them in jail. And so then the first son was thrown against a stone. Every single time their son was born, Kamsa killed him immediately, up until the 7th son, who is known as Balaram. And then the 8th son is obviously the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So it's explained the demons can kill anyone for their nefarious ambitions. So in politics, we have this concept of people, even if someone served a politician for so many years, then they can be killed, or their ambitions can be destroyed just for the purpose of that one politician rising to the top. So this very much occurred in the case of Kamsa. He wanted to kill anyone who would get in his way of being the most supreme. And indeed, all living entities, if we look at the 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it explains the reason for the birth of every fallen conditioned soul in this material entrapment is because we all wanted to be the Lord of the universe. We didn't want Krishna to be the Lord of the universe anymore, so we wanted to be the Lord of the universe. The Nitya Siddhas never have this thought that they want to be the Lord of the universe. However, the fallen conditioned souls do, the Nitya Baddhas, the eternally conditioned, they have the thought in their mind and they act on it. I want to be the Lord of the universe. So Krishna allows that to occur. And then it's really interesting because I heard a morning walk conversation with Srila Prabhupada. And one of the devotees was saying to Prabhupada, speaking in a third person narrative about, the demons in Mayapur are so strong. And then Prabhupada said, actually, everyone who takes birth in the material world is a demon. It's true, because we all wanted to be this Lord of the universe. We were envious of Krishna and we wanted to kill him. So that's the reason for the birth of all the fallen conditioned souls in the world. So Kamsa was so vicious that he imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena, and he also occupied the kingdom of Surasena. So it was this scene that Krishna appears on the world. And then there's also a beautiful explanation of how Krishna disappears from the world, because we know the Pandavas emerged victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Yudhisthira was appointed as the king on the throne, and then so eventually, after the time of their rulership was over, Maharaj Yudhisthira started to see tremendously bad omens. There was like smoke circling the moon. Everyone started becoming very greedy, angry, deceitful. The chastity of women was declining. The protection of the Brahman and cows was disappearing. And people were adopting foul means of livelihood. So in order to maintain their bodies, they were prepared to do anything foul. Like the Brahmanas were prepared to gamble. They were prepared to kill animals for food. So many bad things were happening. Any ordinary transactions and dealings became polluted with cheating, even between friends and family members. There was so much cheating going on. So this forecasted the disappearance of Krishna. And as we know, Krishna is aja, or unborn, so he doesn't take a material body. So when he disappears to go back to the his supreme abode, he takes with him his transcendental body. So there's also talking about the appearance of Krishna, we can also talk about the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So in the same way, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dhammasam stapanataya sambhavama yuge yuge. So Krishna manifests in order to protect his devotees and annihilate the miscreants and to establish the eternal principles of religion. So Lord Chaitanya, Advaita Acharya, was sitting on the banks of the Ganga, and he's seeing this same situation occur. There's so much nefarious activity, there's so much cheating, there's so much lying. And we hear it from Bhavananda Prabhu, gave the beautiful account when he was personally in the association of Srila Prabhupada. He explained what the lies do. So when people lie, they go up into the atmosphere and they can rain down on the living entities as plagues, as pandemics occur as a result of the lying. So in this same situation, so much calamity was happening on the world, and then Advaita Acharya prays to his Shalagram Shila, please, now's the time for you to appear, Lord Krishna. And then it's very beautiful because Lord Krishna also had some ambitions himself. The internal motivation for Krishna appearing in the pastimes was because he wanted to understand the mood of Srimati Radharani. He wanted to understand what was Srimati Radharani experiencing as a result of service to him. So Lord Krishna manifests as Lord Chaitanya with a golden complexion in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And the internal reason is to understand Srimati Radharani's mood, and the external reason is to deliver all the fallen conditioned souls. Then Srimati Radharani also appears in the Pancha Tattva as Gadadhara, and this is beautifully explained because the dealings between Gadadhara and Lord Chaitanya are wonderful because they're both in the body of a male. So when Krishna inquires from Srimati Radharani, what are you getting out of serving me? Why are you experiencing joy and bliss on a scale hundreds and millions of times greater than I am? And so because Srimati Radharani is a girl, she can't explain that to a boy, Krishna. However, when she manifests as Gadadhara, she can explain it to Lord Chaitanya because they're both male. And there's beautiful pastimes of Gadadhara and Gauranga. When Gadadhara is dancing, he starts assuming the golden complexion. And when Lord Chaitanya is dancing with Gadadhara, he starts getting the Shama Sundara, or the blackish complexion of Sri Krishna. So the appearance of Lord Chaitanya in the home of Jagannath Mishra and Shachi Mata is very beautiful. Nilambara Chakravarti was the father of Mother Sachi, and he was a famous astrologer, and he knew that Lord Chaitanya would be very wonderful in his preaching, very wonderful in his presence, and so he named him Vishvanbara. And then all the Lakshmi Patis, the beautiful chaste ladies of Navadvip, saw Lord Chaitanya, saw little baby Nimai, and they said, he has to be called Nimai because he's born underneath the neem tree. So many beautiful occasions, so many beautiful pastimes occurred with the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. And then there's also beautiful explanations of the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada all agree that Lord Chaitanya's disappearance occurred as a result of him merging into the Tota Gopinath deity. Now, various different Vaishnava acharyas explain the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya in other ways. Some of them say Lord Chaitanya walked out into the ocean, and then therefore he disappeared after that. Other Vaishnava acharyas explain that Lord Chaitanya started dancing behind the Garuda Stamba, and then it was at that time that he merged into the deity of Lord Jagannath. So there's just various different accounts of how Lord Chaitanya left the world. And then there's a beautiful story about Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, whereby he left a body behind. And this is to convince, confused the Mayavadis, because the Mayavadis would see the body of Lord Chaitanya and say, he's not God because he left a body behind. We know from the Shastras that God is Aja, never born, so therefore he takes his body with him. But for the devotees of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we know even if Lord Chaitanya leaves a body behind, he's still God, because we understand that that's how it's written in Shastra. We understand from our Vaishnava acharyas, we understand from Srila Prabhupada that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna himself personally, and so therefore it's merely an act that we know that Krishna can fit an elephant through the eye of a needle. So there's nothing impossible for Krishna. In fact, Prabhupada reminds us that impossible is only a word in the Fool's Dictionary. So anything is possible for Krishna, even leaving a body behind or not leaving a body behind. And this wonderful disappearance pastime of Lord Chaitanya is very beautiful, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains it, that anyone who hears the pastime of the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya is sure to attain pure love for Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. And then also we understand there's the appearance of Lord Nityananda. So there's beautiful pastime in Ekachakra, where Hadai Pandit and Padmavati were celebrating the birth of their son Nityananda. And previously in that part of Ekachakra, it was in poverty. It was desert-like. The waters weren't flowing. The flowers were not blooming. The fruits were not growing on the trees. Then immediately on the appearance of Lord Nityananda, in Ekachakra became extremely opulent. The water started flowing with beautiful transcendental ambrosial waters. The fruits started growing in a way that they were so sweet and nectarian. And the flowers started to bloom in such a manner that they were extremely pungent and extremely fragrant. So the appearance of Lord Nityananda is a very beautiful situation that we should be very fortunate to hear from. And it's explained also in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Vrindavan Das Thakur, because Vrindavan Das Thakur, according to Gaura Ganadesh Dipika of Kavikarnapur, is a manifestation of Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva personally wanted to manifest into the pastimes of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, and he does that by becoming Vrindavan Das Thakur. Because as we know, the Vedas in themselves have no description of Lord Chaitanya. So we find ourselves in an incredibly fortunate position that we have these literatures of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya to help us understand the pastimes they undertook, the entourage that were with them, what activities they performed, who they were, what village they were born in. That's why we say every morning, Eka Chakra Dham Ki Jai, the birthplace of Lord Nityananda. And then so there's beautiful pastimes. You might ask yourself, how did Lord Nityananda disappear? Because Lord Chaitanya, as explained by Srila Prabhupada, merged into the Tota Gopinath deity. And then so Vrindavan Das Thakur explains the disappearance of Lord Nityananda. He disappeared by merging with the body of Banka, Bankima Raya deity in Eka Chakra Gram, his appearance place. So it's very beautiful to hear about these pastime places of Lord Nityananda, to hear of these places where they appeared and the activities they undertook as well. And it's interesting when we spoke about Maharaj Yudhisthira experiencing the change in circumstances as a result of the disappearance of Lord Krishna, such that there was increase in greed, there was increase in lust, there was increase in anger. And so similarly, when Lord Chaitanya disappeared, for some reason, some of the branches of the tree of Lord Chaitanya, they deviated from his path. Therefore, we have the upper sampradayas, or those sampradayas which are against Lord Chaitanya's teaching, headed by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It's beautifully explained by Bhakti Vikash Maharaj in his Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav that all the 13 upper sampradayas appeared after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. Now, the most miscreant upper sampradaya is the Mayavadis. So believing that Krishna has a material body, Krishna is subservient to Maya, this is some of the theories of Mayavadi. And then we have the Prakrita Sahajas. So Prabhupada explains the Prakrita Sahajas are those who believe they're on the same level of Srimati Radharani. So Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we recently celebrated the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri, and it's explained that only 3 personalities will ever be able to understand the bhav of Srimati Radharani. So it's Lord Chaitanya, Madhavendra Puri, and Srimati Radharani herself. So the Mahabhav of Srimati Radharani is only experienced by those 3 personalities. So then the deviation from the path of Lord Chaitanya, you had the Prakrita Sahajas who were enjoying the body of women, enjoying intoxication such as ganja, and also believing themselves to be on the same level of Srimati Radharani. There's also other Prakrita Sahajas who believe themselves to be on the same level of Mother Yashoda, and occupying that position. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, you had the growth of these upper sampradayas. So in that way, Prabhupada reminds us we should be very careful with our association. Seeing who Mayavadis, the Prakrita Sahajas, the atheists, the rascals, in the Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, it's explained that 4 types of miscreants will never come to me. The fools and the rascals, the Maya Parthi Gyanis, or those who are puffed up with academic knowledge, the demons who are envious of Krishna, and the fools and rascals. So there's 4 different people who never, 4 different groups of people never come to Krishna consciousness. So after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, the associates of Lord Chaitanya were in so much aggrieved as a result of Lord Chaitanya leaving, because with the Sankirtan party, you had situations where the ruler of the time, the impious Muslim kings, were trying to place obstacles in the path of the Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. So Lord Chaitanya would personally visit these kings and convince them that the Hare Krishna Sankirtan Yagya would continue on. So Raghunath Das Goswami was so much aggrieved as a result of the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya that he thought he wanted to commit suicide. So he went to Govardhan Hill, and he was about to throw himself off to the Govardhan Hill. And so then he was stopped by Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. And they'd previously been given the instructions by Lord Chaitanya to excavate the holy pilgrimage sites and teach Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So Raghunath Das Goswami surrendered himself to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, and then he undertook his daily practice, or his daily sadhana was paying 1,000 dandavats to his Lord Chaitanya deity. Then he paid 1,000 dandavats to all the Vaishnavas, and then he chanted 2 lakhs of names every day, which is 128 rounds or 200,000 names of the Lord every single day. And then he lived very simply, just on half a cup of buttermilk every second day or so. And so Raghunath Das Goswami lived in this manner at Radhakund. And if you go there, his gadi or his tomb is still there. The gadi of Raghunath Das Goswami is in the Radha Gopinath temple, just near Janava Ma's sitting place, and she also her bathing place. And so this is the associates of Lord Chaitanya. And then it's very beautiful when we remember Janava Ma she was invited by Narottam Das Thakur to Kuturi, the place of the first Sankirtan festival. And Narottam Das installed 5 sets of deities in Kuturi. And then Janavama was the most famous acharya at the time, being Lord Nityananda's personal Shakti. And she was invited by Narottam Das to this big festival. And it's explained that the merciful sidelong glance of Janavama was bestowed upon Narottam and infused him with so much prema bhakti that the kirtan of Narottam Das Thakur caused the appearance of the Panchatattva, the